So Elizabeth Warren is back to her shenanigans. Recently, during the New Hampshire debates, she claimed that, oh, me and Amy Klobuchar, we're the only people on the stage, us two women, that don't take money from super PACs.
Everyone on this stage except Amy and me is either a billionaire or is receiving help from PACs that can do unlimited spending.
Basically, what she was trying to insinuate is that Bernie Sanders, who always says that he's clean and he only takes small dollar donations and his campaign is only grassroots funded, well, that's not true. It's just me and Amy. Well, now she's reversed her stance. Not even a week and a half later. Now she is taking super PAC money from the Persist PAC. Okay, that's their name. And they're interesting. I'll get into them in a second, but I just find it so amusing how she's once again flip-flopped on something, and so soon also. Not even 2 weeks later, she's reversing her stance. Like, you were so proud, right, that just you and Amy Klobuchar don't take super PAC money, allegedly. And now all of a sudden, you're doing exactly that. The only thing that's consistent about Elizabeth Warren is her inconsistency. Okay, she flip-flops on Medicare for All. She flip-flops on taking corporate PAC money. Then she flip-flops on her non-aggression pact with Bernie Sanders. I mean, she's all over the place, right? This is not someone who is 100% behind their convictions. Okay, so let me just show you quickly of her being asked about this Persist PAC.
Do you want the super PAC supporting you to stand? Do you want the super PAC supporting you to stand down?
So look, the first day I got in this race over a year ago, I said, I hope every presidential candidate who comes in will agree. No super PACs for any of us. I renewed that call dozens of times, and I couldn't get a single Democrat to go along with me. Finally, we reached the point a few weeks ago where all of the men who were still in this race and on the debate stage all had either super PACs or they were multi-billionaires and could just, rummage around in their sock drawers and find enough money to be able to fund a campaign. And the only people who didn't have them were the two women. And at that point, there are some women around the country who said, that's just not right. So here's where I stand. If all the candidates want to get rid of super PACs, count me in. I'll lead the charge. But that's how it has to be. It can't be the case that a bunch of people keep them and only one or two don't.
That statement that she just gave is really, really concerning. I mean, listen to what she's telling you. She's telling you to your face that, listen, I tried to get everyone not to take super PAC money, but because they're not listening, I have to do it too now. Oh, and by the way, because none of the women were taking any, well, we got to take it too now. What? Look how she tries to work in this sexism and identity politics into her flip-flopping. She's literally saying that, oh, because only the men were taking super PAC money, well, us women, we got to do it too now. What? What does that even mean? So if all of a sudden all the men on stage don't support Medicare for All, you're also just going to abandon Medicare for All? What kind of a logic is that? Now, I haven't even gotten into what she's saying, which is completely false, right? That Bernie Sanders takes super PAC money, because she's including him in that group. What she's referring to is groups like the Sunrise Movement. They're really great on climate change. I don't know if you've heard about them before, but they do great work. And Nina Turner, I saw her hanging out with them one point. She was just brilliant. And they're really a focused group on climate change. They do great stuff. And that's a PAC, a super PAC that also supports Bernie Sanders through grassroots donations, right? That's what she's not telling you. Another one is also National Nurses United, which represents nurses. And you also have a big one founded by Bernie Sanders called Our Revolution, which, by the way, Elizabeth Warren had obviously no problem dealing with or interacting with before. The thing that she's not telling you here is that even though these are technically super PACs, they get their money through small dollar donations, right? Through $18 a pop, for example. And moreover, they don't do things like buy out millions of dollars worth of ads or, anything glossy to prop up Bernie Sanders, which is not the case with the Persist PAC that is now throwing their support behind Elizabeth Warren. They are throwing a ton of cash towards her campaign to bolster her, to boost her up. I think something along the lines of $1 million worth of ads. Okay. So there is a distinction there. You cannot compare the super PACs like National Nurses United that basically represent nurses and working class people to something like the super PACs that support Joe Biden or Pete Buttigieg, which are really closed door, smoke-filled back rooms, hush-hush, six-figure donations from rich people, from billionaires, from corporations, you don't know who. And they're just funneling all that cash into there, diverting it to buying ads and doing really heavy investments to bolster up these candidates, right? And it's so funny because very recently, Pete Buttigieg also claimed that Bernie Sanders is being propped up by dark money. Like, that's so hilarious because these super PACs that he's referring to are some of the most transparent. And once again, they are grassroots funded. It's small dollar donations from regular working class people, right? And he was referring to things like the Sunrise Movement, Our Revolution, National Nurses United, the Democratic Socialists of America. They even listed them here. They said, look, Dream Defenders, Student Action US. So these are really all just groups that are represented by minorities, by people of color, by working class, by middle class, by people who are disenfranchised by the political process and who actually want to help turn out the vote, right? So one of the big things about Our Revolution, which was created by Bernie Sanders, to my knowledge, is that they want to focus on turning out the vote, mobilizing people, right? Not necessarily buying ads for Bernie Sanders. So those are two completely different things. And one thing that I haven't heard people mention, which is so obvious, is that the reason Elizabeth Warren is doing this is because her campaign is flopping. I already said this back in January when the fourth quarter figures came out for 2019. Man, she didn't do really well with the fundraising, okay? She came in somewhere in fourth place, if I recall correctly. She even got beaten by Joe Biden, who himself is doing bad and also had to turn to super PACs. He went back on his pledge not to take any super PAC money because nobody was donating. Anyway, she's doing really bad with the fundraising. She has no money there. On top of it, if you look at the results from the primaries, where did she come in? Fourth place in New Hampshire and third place in Iowa. Disastrous. That's not frontrunner status. That's a campaign that's going downhill, okay? So now, in an act of desperation, she's attempting to throw Bernie Sanders on the bus as usual and be like, oh, he takes super PAC money, but now I'm going to take super PAC money. Huh? Because everybody else is doing it. No, that's not the reason. That's a ridiculous reason. She's trying to work in this whole sexism, identity politics angle that, oh, look, all the men are taking super PAC money, which is not true. Again, there's a difference there, but all the men are taking super PAC money, so we have to do that too now. What? No, you don't. If you're really 100% behind your convictions and you really believe in what you say, it's irrelevant what the other candidates do. Do you think, like, for example, that Bernie Sanders would stop supporting Medicare for all just because all the other candidates stop supporting it? This is such a ridiculous statement. It's like, oh, you know, the establishment is corrupt, so I guess we just have to be corrupt too. And again, there's a distinction there. Bernie Sanders super PACs, they're nothing like the super PACs we're talking about when it comes to Pete Buttigieg and Joe Biden, where, I mean, that is more appropriate to use the term dark money because you really don't know where that stuff is coming from. And it's obviously done by billionaires behind the scenes who are trying to, I mean, not even behind the scenes. We already know that Pete Buttigieg publicly has over 40 billionaire donors, as Bernie Sanders called them out. But in conclusion, this is all just an act of desperation by Elizabeth Warren. And it's really interesting seeing how she keeps flip-flopping on all the issues, you know? Like I said, the only thing consistent about Elizabeth Warren are her inconsistencies. So that's really not going well for her. And what a waste of $1 million by the Persist PAC. I mean, there's no way Elizabeth Warren is winning this. But unfortunately, I mean, given the answer that they all gave during the end of the last debate, I think she's just sticking around just for the sake of making sure that Bernie Sanders doesn't get a majority, he doesn't get that large of a plurality, just so they can steal the nomination from him at the convention in Milwaukee. One important thing that I want to highlight is also who is running this Persist PAC. You know, the way they're trying to frame it is that, oh, this is a harmless super PAC because, first of all, it's run by 4 women, identity politics, and they're progressives too. No, they're not. When you look at who these people are, guess what you find out is that one of them used to be an Iowa caucus director for Hillary Clinton. 2 of them are former political directors with Emily's List. And on top of it, Emily's List and PCCC, I mean, these are both dark money groups. They're funding the Persist PAC. And they've worked with Hillary Clinton before. As usual, I mean, it's so, if you follow the trail, there's always stink. It's just like with the Shadow app. You know, you look who is working on the Shadow app, who is forming the team for the development. Oh, former staffers for Hillary Clinton. It's never progressives. It's never people you can trust. It's always people who have worked for or who are simply part of the establishment. Just follow the money, always, right? And it's going to lead to some stink. So, in essence, even if you want to give Elizabeth Warren the benefit of the doubt and you want to go like, okay, well, she's using a super PAC, Bernie Sanders, all of the other candidates are using super PACs, even though there are differences, and fair is fair. Okay, but why is she coming on stage then? Why is she going around and touting herself as, oh, I'm holier than thou. I don't take super PAC money, yeah, boy. I'm better than all of them. And then she turns around not even 2 weeks later and does exactly what she was proud of not doing. This is ridiculous. I mean, she will use anything, any means necessary to go after Bernie Sanders and throw him under the bus and try to one-up him. But when it's politically convenient, she doesn't disavow this super PAC working for her. She doesn't have any problem with it. No, it's fine. You know, whatever. Once again, in conclusion, to me, this is another sign of a failing campaign. Elizabeth Warren, she's an opportunist. She will do anything to advance her career. That means throwing Bernie Sanders under the bus this election cycle and the last one. That means flip-flopping on core issues, core pillars of the progressive movement like Medicare for All, not taking super PAC money, if you will. Doesn't matter. Anything to advance her career. Where's the surprise?